changes or additions there?
Yes, please. If you would remove item number 6, the approval of the Bryan Pond Road parking lot project.
All right. Next, approve the minutes. Number 1, the minutes, 15th, 2021.
So moved.
I have a motion by
Second.
Gary and a second by Judy. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I will restrain that was in.
Okay, the minutes are passed. Number 2, the minutes of November 15th, town plan public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Judy,
Second.
second by Gary. Is there any further discussion on these? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are removed.
I'll abstain on that one too. That was in.
Okay, yeah.
If you would speak right up so we capture that, because Sarah's having a hard time hearing.
Brian abstained on those 2 because he wasn't present. Number 3, the minutes of November 18th, 2021, the informational meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Judy,
Second.
second by Gary. Is there any further discussion on these? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion is passed. Next, the minutes of November 22nd. This is a lot of meetings going on. Minutes of
No
November
kidding.
22nd.
So moved.
Moved by Gary, second by
Second.
Judy. Any further discussion on these? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion is passed. Last one, minutes of November 29th, 2021, budget meeting for highway.
So moved.
Motion by Judy,
Second.
second by Gary. Any further discussion on this? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion is passed. All right, next, community concerns. Do we have community concerns tonight? Go ahead, ma'am. Can you please, yep, state your name, whatever your community concern is.
No, I'm sorry to interrupt. If it's about the mask mandate, it is an agenda item, and when we get to that, there will be public comment then. Sorry.
Sorry, is there any other community concerns other than the mask mandate discussion?
I do have a question.
Go ahead, ma'am.
All right. When it comes down to being able to.
Oh, could you tell us your name, please?
Yes, I'm Gianna Rose. When it comes down to being able to have a place for us to be able to compost our food and scraps, is there something that the board, that the town is willing to help provide that for? Because I know it's regulated on the state side right now.
That's a good question.
Thank you.
I don't think we've had that question before.
Do we have anything out at the transfer station?
Yes.
There's a composting bin out there?
There's bins out at the compost at the one on the Cochrane Road down Stowe. That's 6 days a week down there. We have a big trailer down there.
Is there education about those residents of this town to make sure they know how to compost their waste?
There's handouts if people come and get them. We have them at the transfer station.
Is that
The
from
one on the
town? Is that
Cochrane Road.
from-
Well, the Cochrane Road one is run by the district, which is the town's a member. And the one, we own the one on the Cochrane Road and the district runs it. And that's only open on Saturdays. There's one in Johnson's open 3 days.
So you're saying only 1 day a week residents of this town can go dispose of their compost waste?
No, if they go to the Cochrane Road, they can come to Stowe any day they want. That's part of the district.
Okay.
So that, all the sites are 12 towns to get together. So any one of the sites you want to use, you can use.
Is there facilities available for those who have businesses here, not just for residents?
You can bring it there, but we don't have, we don't pick it up. You have to bring it to us. I'm sure there's people out there though, for a business, that would come and gladly take it away, so. But I'm not sure on that.
Thanks for the question. Is there any other community concerns? All right, seeing none, we'll move to liquor control. Do you have liquor control tonight?
We do. Make a motion to go in.
All right, I have a motion to move into liquor control,
Second.
and a second by Judy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are now in liquor control. Sarah, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Okay. So we do have one liquor license. It's actually a new application from Four Timber LLC that's doing business as Tacos and Tap Bar at
Where El
82
Toro.
Lower Main Street where El Toro used to be.
Okay. Jason, do you have any issues with that?
So since October 17th, we have been there 4 times for the windy noise complaints. We have issued 2 tickets so far for violating the noise ordinance. I've talked to Paul about that. That's the issue that we have on our end. So it's not really something that we've dealt with in the past with Tom's Bar or anywhere else in town. So I just want to be sure that this type of behavior doesn't continue.
Right. Would you have a recommendation for us as far as the liquor control, liquor license?
I was thinking possibly to do like a 6-month trial, something like that, just to make sure that we're not gonna have this continued problem.
That sounds good. Thank you. Any feedback from the board?
I was surprised they didn't ask for outside consumption, since that was the, El Toro had outside consumption before, right? Yeah, I think they did,
I believe so.
yeah.
They did before, but I don't know, maybe going into winter, they haven't asked for it, or maybe they're gonna come back.
I don't know, Paul's here in the room.
Oh,
There you
how are you, sir?
Yes.
Can you introduce yourself for us?
Hi, I'm Paul Setting, Tacos and Taps.
Yeah.
So I did not apply for the outdoor consumption because we were going into winter. And the liquor license that I am purchasing is going to be good. I was recommended by the DLC to just get a 6-month one anyways, because it comes up in April.
Right.
It's not.
Before there would be outside consumption anyway.
Exactly, so that's why I just went with the 6 months. And I want to say, since the 2 times that, I know one of the incidences was this certain individual who brought the firearm in and was being disruptive, ended up going home, and a few nights later called. From my understanding, it was him who called, and then was he the one with the drugs laying on the sidewalk?
No,
Because in the paper it said the individual that was removed an hour and a half earlier called and said there was drugs on the sidewalk, which turned out to be oatmeal.
I know what you're talking about.
So, but I didn't kick anybody else out, so I don't know who wrote that.
Assuming it's probably an
It was in a blotter, so. And then the first one was the neighbor next door, which since then I've talked and we have an understanding. She just assumed that I didn't care. That was not the case. I do care and I understand she's bred above. So since then, I put in 9 inches of blue board plus 3 inches of merino wool in between those. Didn't have an issue with that. The second ticket came and I showed them what I did, all the windows. And I spent almost $1,000 in insulation just for the windows. And then I was told by Officer Chris that it was coming out of the front. So I can't insulate the whole front of the building. It'd be just a black hole inside. And blue board on the outdoor, is not gonna be a good look on Main Street either. So, what we've done since then is gone at 10 o'clock. Anybody that wants to continue playing music went down to the one mic, which the artists play acoustically. And we haven't had an issue since, so.
Like I said, the biggest issue's been the noise, and Dr. Paul and 10 o'clock.
A trumpet, put me out $100, and then a cat with a pedal steel banging on it at like 10:20, a couple of weeks ago got me a $200 ticket. So I understand, and if I'm a neighbor and I'm not wanting to hear music at 10:30 at night, I get that. So I'm really trying to work with everybody to alleviate.
This is the meeting in Morrisville.
I'm sorry?
Somebody's not muted. We'll take care of it.
Yeah, so, I understand, Tom doesn't have this issue. Tom's been there for a while, and a lot of folks have moved out of apartments, and then new folks move in understanding there's a bar across the street. I don't have that right now. I have the bee's knees who played, duos and trios for the most part, stringed instruments. Then El Toro, which I ran the bar there for the first 3 years. We had music. We closed at 9. I'm Tacos and Taps. I closed at close. I'm legally allowed to serve till 2, but if nobody's there at 11 o'clock, I'm closing. But if there's musicians that wanna play, what we're gonna do is just go down acoustically after 10 o'clock. The noise ordinance is till 10. And that's the best I can do without just closing up shop at 10 o'clock and wasting another 2-3 hours that I can make some money off of a liquor license that I, pay $1,500 a year for. So, I'm a bar and I'm not a family restaurant, and it is legal to have a bar, and I understand the noise perspective, so I'm trying to work with that.
Right.
That's all
Jason,
I
are you
have.
satisfied with that?
I think 6 months sounds good to me.
Ma'am, go ahead.
Are we allowed to have a bar in Morrisville?
Yeah.
There's
why
one
not?
already.
Yeah,
Okay,
we've had many bars here in the past.
okay.
How about the board? Do you have any questions or comments?
No, I'll make the motion that we approve liquor license for 6 months.
Okay, I have a motion by Gary,
I'll second it.
a second by Brian. Is there any further discussion on this?
Yes, this is Sarah.
Go ahead,
Just
Sarah.
so that you know, we're kind of less than 6 months into this. It's only through April 30th. So if you approve this, this liquor license as is, it's basically going to be for 5 months. He'll have to come and renew it, at the beginning of the year anyways, for the May 1st date.
Okay.
Just kind of a technicality. But
That should be in a motion then, right?
so I think if you approve it as is, then it's less than 6 months. So I don't think you would need that in your motion.
Okay.
And then you can have this discussion again in a couple months when he renews, if you decide to approve it.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. All right, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion is passed. Is that all we had tonight, Sarah?
Yes.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to come out of liquor control?
So moved.
Motion by Brian,
Second.
second by Judy. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? We are now back in the regular select board meeting. New business. First is review the audit with the auditor. Yep, go ahead. Is the auditor here tonight?
Yeah, Bonnie is online. Bonnie Dow was our auditor this year from.
Oh, yeah, I see her. Yep. Hi, Bonnie, can you hear us?
Hi, I can.
Great.
Our audit partner, John Mudgett, has not logged in yet, but we can go ahead and get started. He kind of planned on me handling most of the discussion anyway. He was just gonna be available for any other questions and just to sit in on the meeting as well, so he could meet you all.
Okay.
Um,
Does anybody have questions about it? Did you have a comment, Bonnie?
I was just going to mention when I was preparing this afternoon for the meeting and I was looking through the audit report, I did notice kind of like a typo, or a printing error on page 33. One of the tables is cut off. So we're going to get you guys a revised final document that fixes that one minor thing that I picked up on today.
Okay. Page 33.
Oh, the front of it, yeah.
It's the table in note 7.
Right.
Just the left-hand side,
Oh.
a couple of letters got cut off on the whole table. I'm not
Okay.
sure what happened there, but we'll get that corrected for you.
Okay. So do you want to comment on the opinion of the audit?
Yep, I just have a couple of like highlights of things that I can mention and discuss, unless you guys have specific questions for us relating to the audit or the reports or anything contained within them. The opinion on the financials. I'm sorry, what was that?
I don't have any questions. I just wondered, to sort of elaborate on that opinion you
Yeah.
have.
The opinion on the financial statements was unmodified, with what used to be called a clean opinion. There's nothing within the financial statements that's materially misstated. Tina has a really good handle on everything that she does in the finance office. And it was a really, really smooth audit, even though it was a first year for us. We were somewhat familiar with you guys having done it a few years back,
We'll see
but
if that works.
But overall, it went pretty smoothly, and we were in your office for about a week in September to do the majority of the field work. The opinion on internal control over financial reporting was also unmodified, and we don't have any findings related to your internal controls and the testing that we did.
Okay. Yes, I don't have any questions. Do you, Gary?
I have none, no.
Brian?
No?
We've always been, in the past, it's been brought to our attention that we need to carry more unallocated funds. Do you feel that way too?
I don't think so. I think you have a pretty good amount of unassigned fund balance in your general fund at the end of this year. I know I've talked with Tina a little bit since year end about some planned uses here and there, and some questions on the fund balances in general, but I think you guys have a pretty healthy fund balance that could be utilized if something unexpected were to come up.
The other question I have, I kind of always ask the auditors this question is there anything that we can do to be more transparent with everything that we do? Because that's always a question. You know, you hear about all over the place, not just Vermont or whatever, across the country. You always hear about these situations where municipal offices have embezzling happening and that sort of thing. And certainly not to shed any ill thoughts of any one of us, but is there anything we can do to be more transparent?
There isn't anything specific that comes to mind. I know Tina has a really good handle on how organized she is and where everything is. I think there's good knowledge between her and her assisting staff to keep things going if one of them needed to be out, and there's a second set of eyes looking at things on a regular basis. There definitely wasn't anything I picked up on during the audit because I had no audit findings or recommendations. And she's definitely available and quick to respond. We did our planning remotely, and she was right on top of her email and answering questions quickly, and made sure she was prioritizing getting everything that we needed to us.
Sounds great. All right, do you need anything from us?
I don't believe so, unless anybody had any other questions. It looks like John has joined us if he has anything he wanted to add.
Hi, John, how are you?
John, I think you're still muted.
Can you hear me, John? So challenging trying to do things. I was just going to ask if he had any further questions for us or comments.
Okay, how's that?
Oh, that's much better.
Yes, I had to go through 2 or 3 buttons, I guess, to unmute tonight. No, I'm good, and I really wanted this to be Bonnie's meeting anyway, since she was involved with it to much greater extent than I was. I came in a little bit on the review end and didn't really see much that needed to be added at all. Had a couple of questions for her, but nothing serious that the board needs to address.
Okay. Well, sounds good. Thanks a lot. Thanks for your work on this. And thank you, Bonnie.
You're welcome.
All right. Did you need me, Bill?
Yes, I do.
Excuse me for just a second. Judy's gonna excuse herself. She's gonna go try to sign on virtually. We've got a form as well. Yep, bring that, bring that. And that clipboard as well. That's it. Thank you. All right, sorry for the interruption.
Just bringing it to everyone's attention, simply the packet had the an article from the Vermont League of Cities and Towns, which explained how we got to where we are tonight, the governor signing legislation authorizing base covering rules at the municipal level. There was an explanation sheet as to how they get there. And then there was a rule requiring base coverings indoors and public spaces. These are two samples, one with and one without enforcement of sample ordinances that can be instated if the board so chooses to do so. So they have both of those documents in front of them to discuss.
All right, and do you want to, well, I think everyone pretty much knows that Governor Scott has left it up to the towns to decide whether or not to do a mask mandate in the town. And it's my opinion, personally, I don't feel that we should. I feel that mask mandate or anything like that is a personal choice, and it shouldn't be our public officials that are mandating such a thing. It's just not, it's not right in my mind. I'm one of five here on the board, but I think it's all about personal choice. You know, if you feel unsafe anywhere you go, you can wear a mask. You know, I mean, I remember when I was a kid going on an airplane and I'd see people, and I don't mean to be discriminating, but I'd see like Asian people with a mask on, and I remember saying to my parents, "How come that lady's got a mask on?" And they would say, well, my mom would explain, well, you know, either they've got a weakened immune system or something going on that they are afraid they're going to get sick. And I said, oh, okay, you know, just thought that was fine if they wanted to do that, you know. But I don't feel like it should be everybody's personal choice and not mandated by the town or the state or the U.S. government. That's my opinion. I don't know how you feel, Brian. I actually be interested to see how everyone feels.
I'd like to have the board speak before we hear from the rest of the audience.
can do that. Brian, go ahead.
So I feel the same as Bob. If there is a mandate, I think it should have come from the government. They know more about it, keep them close to track. If there's a threat, then I think he should have made it a mandate. For him to put it on to us, I just don't agree with it. I think if restaurants or businesses want to have, I think they should do it. That should be up to them. But I don't, to make people force them, I just don't agree.
Jerry.
Yeah, those echo my feelings as well. When there was a state of emergency, the governor did his due diligence and did what he had to do. And at this point in time, he doesn't see any reason for a statewide mandate. And my personal opinion is that neither do I. To have a townwide mandate, I carry at least 2 masks in my pocket all the time. When I go somewhere, I mean, my wife and I were in Burlington over the weekend. Every place we went into, we wore a mask. That's our choice. It wasn't mandated. And to the hospital, I mean, it's mandated in the hospital, so you automatically wear one there anyway. And I feel that's the same way in town. If businesses want to require masks when you go in, that's absolutely fine. I'll abide by their wishes and I'll still go in. But for an elected official to have the right to mandate what a person can do or cannot do is absolutely not correct, in my opinion.
Jess, can you hear?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, go ahead. I can hear you
Okay.
well.
Thanks for everyone for sharing your views on this. I feel differently. I work in a school, and I wear a mask every day, and so do all the students. And it's not convenient and it's not comfortable and it's difficult to hear each other. But because of the mask wearing in our setting, we've been able to stay in person. And I feel many different ways about mask wearing. My personal feelings, I can put aside because it is uncomfortable and it is inconvenient. And it's really annoying. It's hard to hear people. I don't believe that government should tell people what to do in normal circumstances, but we do tell people all the time what to do in order to keep the greater good safe. We make sure that people behave at bars, and we make sure that people hunt at certain times of year, and we make sure that people obey the speed limit. I mean, to me, it's the same because we're looking at a question of protecting people with weakened immune systems. And to your point, Bob, people don't just wear masks to protect themselves, but they wear masks to protect other people from their droplets.
Well, that's your opinion. That's not everybody's opinion, and that's not every medical person's opinion.
It's right. It's well, and unfortunately, this has become extremely contentious and it's become politicized, and I feel that that's very unfortunate. But the scientists and the leaders that I've looked to over the last couple of years do still recommend wearing masks. And also on the Vermont Department of Health, it says the need to wear a mask indoors is expected to be temporary while vaccination levels increase and the Delta variant surge ends. Wearing a mask helps protect you and the people around you from getting or spreading COVID-19. A mask helps contain your respiratory droplets and can keep them from reaching other people. COVID-19 can spread even if a person does not have any symptoms. This is how we reduce spread of the virus and outbreaks in our community, schools, and businesses. And so to me, yeah, I do feel conflicted because I don't believe that I don't really believe in top-down government. I do believe in getting the opinion of the people. I wish we could have a vote on it. That would be the fairest way to decide. But I also, like, what I worry about here is what happens if a business is now going to impose a mask mandate on their customers. Now we put the onus back to the businesses, the onus of the enforcement. And then I guess people can choose whether or not to visit those establishments, but I don't think that's fair either. I think it's easier. What I worry about is effects on local businesses. And as a select person, I feel that it's my job to do something that is the best for all of our community, our elders and our immunocompromised, and to make sure that we're not putting an onus on businesses that now, okay, well, if they say you have to wear a mask, are people going to not frequent their businesses? Like, we need all the help we can get in our local businesses. So those are my thoughts. I believe I'm outnumbered. I'm not sure where Judy sits on this issue, but thank you for listening to me.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, and I hope she signs back on, because we'll get her opinions on it too. But thanks for your comments, and you're certainly entitled to your opinion. Everybody's got different ones. That's why we've got 5 different people on the board. Does anyone want to speak? And before you do, please, when I call on you, please stand and say your name and where you're from, and try to speak loudly. Go ahead, ma'am.
I'm sorry. Also, Gary, Bob, can we just have a time limit on this too? Because I feel like this could go into ATV territory where people have a lot to say.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If I see it starting getting out of hand, I will definitely say something.
Yeah, what was her time of speaking? Miss
Well, we have in the past given how much? 2 minutes or something like that?
2 minutes, yeah.
2 minutes, I think, speaker. And you could speak twice. So I'll do that, Jess. Go ahead, ma'am.
My name is Shanara Johnson, and I would like to refute some of the things that Jess mentioned. A lot of people say, what's the harm? It's only a minor inconvenience. If it saves even one life, it's worth it. Actually, there was a study on 100,000 students from Brown University, Professor Emory Oster, and they found that in areas of high community transmission, masked school students saw a case rate 37% higher than non-masked school students. School staff experienced an 84% higher case rate in masked schools. In May 2021, a University of Louisville study using CDC data discovered that mask mandates and use are not associated with lower SARS-CoV-2 spread among US states. They concluded our findings do not support the hypothesis that SARS-CoV-2 transmission rates decrease with greater public mask use. They even said that prolonged mask use promotes facial alkalization and inadvertently discourages dehydration. They found that wearing a mask leads to a rise in carbon dioxide in the blood of the wearer, that leads to a decrease of oxygen in the blood of the wearer, impaired respiratory function. And in Gainesville, Florida, some parents submitted face masks to a lab for analysis, and they found that the masks were contaminated with bacteria, parasites, and fungi, including 3 with dangerous pathogens. The pathogens included pneumonia, tuberculosis, meningitis, sepsis, encephalitis, antibiotic-resistant pneumonia, bloodstream infections, UTIs, food poisoning, Lyme disease, diphtheria, Legionnaire's disease, severe infections. 50% of the masks were contaminated with 1 or more strains of pneumonia-causing bacteria. 33% were contaminated with 1 or more strains of meningitis-causing bacteria. Other pathogens were those included causing fever, ulcers, acne, yeast infections, strep throat, periodontal disease, Rocky Mountain spotted fever, and more. This is what you get when you wear a mask for $8. This is what this looks like. This is from a Facebook dad who's a lab scientist, and he took the masks. He took the masks of his kids after 8 hours of wearing, and basically put the sample into a petri dish, and this is what came out of it.
Thank you. Someone else want to speak?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, I'm from here. All right, we elected you folks to take care of the town, and for a couple, minus a couple of things, you've done a really great job. Now, we're in the middle of a pandemic, and I'm not on mandates either, but we gotta take care of our people in town. And you know, there's two parts of this. One, you can put the mandate with no penalty. And I think it's up to the board to take care of the people, put a mandate on. People don't wanna wear the mask, and going, that's fine. But it shows people that you care about the town and what you're doing. You're leading by example. Now, if I wear a mask and I'm wrong, and this is what's gonna happen to me, what's gonna happen? It's me. It's up to me to mask. If you don't wear a mask and you're wrong, somebody could die. And that's how I look at it. So that's all I hope to do for a mandate. Doesn't have to have penalties.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you.
Is it possible to read like what the penalties would be? So people can understand like what enforcement would look like?
There's two options on the table currently, and we don't have to pass a mandate with a penalty.
But we should know what it could potentially.
It could potentially be $800, but that's not what we're looking at.
What does it say?
There's no such thing, potentially $800.
Is there any jail time associated? Compensation?
No.
So it's only a fine? So
Right.
of up to $800?
Point of order, please, one at a time from the
Sorry.
floor.
I just was trying to.
Comments
clarify.
addressed to the chair, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We don't know. We haven't created anything. This is just potential. You know?
So my question is, did the governor outline what could
No.
potentially a town choose to do?
No.
Well, as far, what's specifically your question, because I don't want to have the wrong information
What
going
could
out.
enforcement be? So is it an arrest, is it a ticket, fine, like what is the
parameters.
parameters? Did the governor give specific parameters?
The specific parameters were a civil penalty, which is a traffic ticket, basically a Vermont civil complaint. It's the same ticket that's issued at a traffic stop. The maximum penalty could be $800. So they allowed for waiver penalties for those who chose to pay it without contesting the ticket. So for you, and the board has the option to set the fines and the waiver penalties at whatever rate they want. I'm not even sure. I know Burlington has opted to do it with enforcement. I'm not even sure what their penalties were that they chose. But it's similar to all other fines within the traffic violation laws, but it's not an arrestable offense.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Eric. The board would have the option of passing a mandate that doesn't come with any fines or repercussions.
That's what he just said.
Yeah, that's correct. You don't have to. You can use one that does not have.
Okay.
Oh.
Steve, go ahead.
I'm Steve Benson, I'm Shawmut Restaurant. I wish the board had voiced their opinions till after everybody has talked. Basically, the board has already made it. So I'm going to state what I wanted to say when I came here. CDC says any business can make a mask mandate if they want. You as the town, I would like to see it done, because what will happen now, by you saying no, and the businesses that have the sign on the door saying masks are required, we're going to have the response from the people coming through the door is, the town says, I don't need one, so I'm not going to wear one. That's what's going to happen. And also, if a business has a COVID case, that business has to close. As a matter of fact, one of our restaurants here in town just closed for a few days because they have a COVID case. And that business is going to lose money because that person who's infected has to be out 10 days. And the other people have to get tested. Obviously, the mask isn't going to stop the virus, but it's going to slow it down. I honestly believe that.
I went to mask mandate as of Thanksgiving, and have been ever since. Yes, there are people that come through that door that don't want to come in, because I do have to ask them to have masks, to turn around and leave. So I lose business, that's okay. I'm taking care of my staff, making sure my staff doesn't get COVID. And I'm the only restaurant in Lemoore County that has not had to close because of a COVID case since this started. I'm proud of that, my staff's proud of that, not one person getting sick. But mask mandate, I think the town should do, because I know for a fact what's gonna happen. People are gonna say, town says they don't have to have one, I'm not gonna have one.
That's what the governor says too. The governor's saying.
I know, and I wish the governor did pass the mandate. It would have been a lot easier for everybody through the whole state.
It'd be easier for us too.
Yeah, I know, everybody alone. But that's my opinion, and thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Okay, you first, and you, Claudia.
So my question is with the mandate, is it like, do you leave the house with your mask on and until you get back home, you can't take it off? Because you go into the Strata Mart, you come into my place, how are you gonna eat tacos? How am I gonna eat bacon and eggs? You take your mask off. Like, does COVID go away
Right.
by that time you're eating the meal?
That's my.
Like, you can't have it both ways. You can't control and then just expect us to be ignorant. You know, you go on an airplane, that lady or the gentleman walks down the aisle and hands out a cookie and a soda. You can take your mask off, but then you're required to put it back on as soon. So where does COVID go during that time you're eating the cookie?
These conversations are happening all over the world.
I understood, so but I wanna know if this mandate requires me to wear it, am I gonna get fined, or if there's no penalty, am I gonna get held up in my day because I don't have a mask on while I'm driving? Are we gonna get pulled over for no? I see people in an Audi on a 97-degree day with the air conditioner on by themselves wearing a mask.
Yeah.
And COVID can't get you when you're doing 50 down 100 with your windows up. So I don't know how deep this goes, you know, but just a blanket mandate is ridiculous.
Thank you, Claudia.
I just wanted to say, I'm Claudia's daughter. I wanted to say that I moved to this country 29 years ago, and I moved here because it's a free country. That is the reason I'm still here, and that's the reason I would like to stay here, because in Europe at this point, and I know that because my family lives in Germany, you're not allowed out on the street without an N95 mask. My mom has respiratory problems. If she wants to leave the house, she has to wear that. She's sick for 3 days afterwards. Because exactly what Shannara said, there's so many bacteria and stuff on those masks, if we wear them for any amount of time, that it makes her sick. But she can't leave the house without it anymore. And it doesn't end with the mask mandates. We need to be clear that it's a gateway drug, right? I mean, I look at Europe and they're discussing mandatory vaccines. Since when is somebody else deciding what goes into my body? And if somebody wants to get the vaccine, they can get it, and they should be safe and they should be fine. But I had a horrible experience with vaccines 20 years ago. It almost killed me. So I'm extremely cautious of what I put in my body. And the same is true with masks. I tried it once because I brought a friend to the hospital last year sometime when it all started, and I had to put on the mask for 2 days. I was stuffed up. I couldn't really breathe well. I was like, what is this? Why is this even happening to my body? I'm usually perfectly fine. So I think a mandate should not come from the government. If somebody feels more safe with a mask on, they should wear it, no problem. And if somebody feels much healthier without it, then that should be their choice. Oh, and I wanted to say something about businesses. I've gone to businesses when everybody was masking up. I went to businesses that allowed me in without it, and I went to businesses that did curbside that didn't allow it. So I've not patronized the business because of that.
Thank you.
Bob, you have two people online that have their hands up as well.
I'd also like to.
Go ahead, sir.
And just to be clear, I'm a Johnson resident. My name is Bill Moore. I'm a volunteer advocate for Health Choice Vermont, and I think I can fill in a couple of gaps for you. I was in the special session. The legislature gave you this in your lap. The governor, I hear people say, the governor says we can do this, we can do that. That's not it. It was the legislature that dumped this in your lap. They're the ones that wrote the bill. The parameters are very simple. There are none. You can write a rule. You're limited by the civil penalties, as this gentleman mentioned earlier, but there are no other parameters, and Burlington took it to the excess. And it's 51st offense, 152nd offense, 500 every offense after that. Also, Burlington's rule was written in a way, I mean, the ultimate question you have to answer as a select board is how much do you want to divide the community? How much nasty, divided, arguing, and confrontation and burden on law enforcement do you want to endure for what gain? In Burlington, the YMCA, the Greater Burlington YMCA, where I learned to swim, the place has been there, I think, 100 years. They have denied every current member who is not vaccinated, and have also denied them access to the building and denied them the option of a mask. So not only has Burlington passed a mask rule with basically light criminal penalties and fines. By the way, if you don't pay the fine, it does become a misdemeanor criminal penalty. But they've converted, in the way they wrote their rule, to the extreme, so that these institutions are taking it as a group, a collective vax mandate. To go to the Greater Burlington YMCA, you do not have the option to wear a mask. You only have the option of showing a vaccine card against your medical privacy to gain access. Current member, friend of mine's 17-year-old son is now from the building. So what I'm stressing to people, I sat through Hardwick's meeting the other night. So I was in the special session, I sat through the Burlington meeting, I was in the Hardwick meeting. They had much the same conversation. They arrived at the conclusion simply that it was too divisive, that the enforcement was an unworkable, unreasonable waste of time and resources, and they would only divide the community further. So I would leave you with this. If anybody hasn't heard what Dave Giacoboni said when he voted against this on the House floor, then they should hear it again. He said the squeeze isn't worth the juice. This is too divisive. It's just not worth it, and that's why he voted no. And if you know Dave Giacoboni, those are pretty powerful words.
He used to sit on this board right here in the chair.
I know he did. I know he did. So I'll leave you with this. I'm a recovered COVID person. Not only can I not get a membership at the YMCA, but even if I wear a mask, I can't go in. At Johnson State College, where I'm a 1988 alumni, I can't go to a concert this week in which that young man who's being denied access to the Greater Burlington YMCA is acting, and go see that even if I wear a mask. Because on our state college campuses, there's also an effective vaccine mandate. So let's just everybody take a breath and kind of settle down and do the right thing to each other, for each other, but not because of the law.
Thanks for your comment. Couple virtual, had a question, a comment.
There's Betsy, Rich, and I think Judy's the other one.
Hi, can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, I'm Betsy Rich. I live in Morrisville. I just spoke at Stowe's meeting a few moments ago. I'm excited to hear so many folks saying no for the mask mandate. Thank you to the members of the select board that are thinking about our freedoms and our own individual responsibilities. I just want to say, agree with what Bill just said. It would be so divisive. It causes more tension than it's worth. It causes discrimination in our community. I worry about our businesses that are already having trouble getting employees. They'll have trouble keeping employees and have fewer customers. Please vote no. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Judy, can you give us your opinion now?
Yes. First of all, I checked with Memorial County Chamber of Commerce, and they are putting out a survey to the businesses. I'd rather go on data than on just someone's basic feeling on this. I've also been in touch with the hospital. I'd like us to have the data before we make some decision. And for all of those of you sitting in this meeting without masks on, you're the reason I left. I felt so uncomfortable. I have a medical issue. And being that in that enclosed room with all of you without your masks, I had to leave to keep myself safe.
Okay, any other comments?
Questions?
Hold on a second. You first, ma'am, and then you, Brent.
My name is Shiloh Bordeaux, and I'm actually from Lowell, but I am in this area a lot. So I just wanted to bring up a few points that I don't think have been covered. And one of the things that I instantly came into a problem with this mask mandate when it started was that I realized I was not going to be able to wear a mask. And I talked to my medical provider, and we actually figured out that it would be best for me to get an exemption. And so I got an exemption, and since I've got an exemption, I have been refused at so many places all across the state where I literally cannot go in. And even some places that I have patronized for many, many years and that have always, accommodated my family, I've spent thousands of dollars there. The implication, other than just the inconvenience for me and the additional harms that this has brought to my health and my family's health, are the fact that we have statutes. So Title IX, Commerce and Trade, it's Chapter 139, Discrimination in Public Accommodations. I don't know who's familiar with this, but it's definitely something to go ahead and read, because it is very, very specific that people with disabilities are to be accommodated. And so there's definite legal implications for all of these businesses that are deciding to say, we're going to refuse you, because how do you know if somebody has a medical problem? You don't, and none of these businesses are actually inquiring and saying, hey, maybe there's some people who can't wear masks and they're going to be inclusive. They're actually just refusing it, so there's definite legal implications there. There's also legal implications, and maybe some of you guys have thought about this, and it's why you're choosing to vote no, for having, when the governor and legislature had their mandates, if somebody wanted to file a lawsuit for harms, then it would be directed at them. But in your case, when they say, legislature says that you guys get to make these decisions now, the legal implications come back on you. So somebody could say, my business has been harmed from this mandate, or my health has been harmed from this mandate. And if they can prove that there's actual harms, then they actually have a case, and they could take that case to the town or any of the people working for the town in a official and personal capacity. So there's definite, concerns there. I had the privilege to sit in on a hearing in Burlington where my mask exemption was honored, probably because they were well aware of the legal implications on their end if they were to deny it. And, basically the judge said that if there is harm, then there is a case. So anyone who has any type of harm actually has a case. And then, just to bring, I know that we had mentioned, and we're talking all this science and data, I also had the opportunity to sit on a hearing this past February, a civil hearing, where I listened to the state's own epidemiologist get questioned about all of this science and data that most of you, if you've listened to a press conference, have heard our governor refer to all of our science and data, which comes to find out that there actually isn't any. There is not any science and data, and if you don't believe me, it's recorded. You can look this up. It was Mike Desautel's versus the state. And I sat in and I listened to our own state epidemiologist say, they don't track this. They're not keeping track of if masks are effective or not. They actually don't check when they're doing their contact tracing. Sometimes they might ask if somebody had a mask. It doesn't come into play, and there's no science and data.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
My name is Ben Olson. Just to add to the data, somebody mentioned keeping to the data. You can research this anywhere on the internet. The size of the COVID particle is 1 nanometer. The holes in these face masks are 1 micrometer, which is 1,000 times larger than a nanometer. So in effect, with these masks, we're trying to keep mosquitoes out using chain link fence. It just doesn't make sense. And there's all sorts of information that I don't need to repeat that proves that masks are not effective.
It says it right on the mask box. Yeah. You read it on the mask box, read it, what it says.
Freedom and liberty is safe and
Oh, what it says on the mask box is that it's not effective for PPE, and that's so that the entire country didn't buy all the N95s that all of the emergency and healthcare workers needed to use. Surgical masks are meant to prevent the wearer from spreading their own droplets onto other people. That's why they're effective. That's what the box says.
That's not.
If I could just add.
I also don't think this is a forum. I really feel that this is very unfortunate that there's so many unmasked people in the town offices where there is a mask rule. I don't think it's appropriate that all these.
There's
no rule. I'm reading right off a mask box right here. These masks are not personal protective equipment and are not intended as replacements or substitutes for personal protective equipment. These products are not intended for medical use to prevent any disease or illness or virus. Each mask is intended for single use only. Discard immediately after use. So there's your disclaimer.
I read the disclaimer, Bob, and what that means is that it is meant to protect the people around the wearer from the droplets. And the reason that a box says that is because they're avoiding their own lawsuits, because they don't want someone to say, I wore a mask, how come I got COVID? But there's been all kinds of randomized, highly scientific trials done by reputable institutions like Stanford around the incidence of COVID transmission when certain populations, like when there's a population that is given free masks and told how to wear them versus the control. And what they're finding is that there's a very significant percentage of people who are not contracting COVID when they're properly wearing masks and when they have them available for free. And the problem with this is that people are doing research on the internet, that not everyone's sources are reliable, that the public has gotten very mixed messages from the beginning from our officials, from the CDC, from our very own government about what is safe and what is not, because this is pretty unprecedented. But as you mentioned, Bob, in Asia, there is a culture of mask wearing. There have been communicable diseases spread by droplets circulating the world since before our experience with COVID-19, and masks have been proven to protect people. I think it's irresponsible for us to give so much playtime to all the people in the room who are against masks because they are taking the liberty to not wear their masks in the room to put other people at risk, where some people may not agree with them, are not comfortable being there. And I also think the clapping is very inappropriate.
Well, you know, I kind of share this woman's thing too. Is I have a medical exemption. My heart is an AFib like all the time, and I see a heart failure specialist, and I can get documentation for the exemption if I want. I don't push it, and I don't play that card. I just try to be courteous when I can. But like I'm up here without a mask and I'm presenting, and some people say, "Oh, you see, Bob Beeman is not wearing a mask." Well, guess what? I have an exemption too, because it can put me into a place where I could have a heart attack, you know, if it's restricting me. So I don't play that card. And I also think that's an exemption. That really doesn't have something to do with a mask mandate townwide. I think the bottom line is it should be about personal responsibility and personal choice, not about the town pushing whatever it is on everybody.
Well, and I know that she mentioned that we're all getting our evidence from these Google and places like that, but I actually got mine from the state's own epidemiologist, so I'm not sure if that she's not considering that that's a reliable source, but our own state's epidemiologist said that we actually don't have any evidence in this state that what we're doing is effective.
Right. See, there's so much.
But this is the problem. There's no way to know that unless we go into an alternate reality.
For half an hour.
Yeah.
Unless we go in an alternate reality where we try to do this whole year and a half over again with no restrictions, no mask mandates. How do you measure that? How do you make a control? That's an invalid argument. I'm sorry.
I would just like to say, I have literally the video clip from Dr. Fauci here on 60 Minutes where he says, if somebody wants to wear a mask, wear it. It might prevent, and those are his exact words, it might prevent a droplet or two, but it doesn't do anything. But it makes you feel better if you wear one. His exact words, and I can play it to everybody if you want, because that's exactly his words. And that's Dr. Fauci, who is our new guard. And so please.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Hey everyone, my name is Olga. First of all, I just wanted to speak to a couple of things. I was a paramedic in New York City for 12 years, so I was very well versed, very trained in PPE. Actually, specifically when it came to masking, we were told that whatever mask you put on your face after 15 minutes, you discard it. It's only meant to have your encounter with your patient. If you're in an emergency department and you go in and you have masks because the patient is severely immunocompromised or severely contagious and you're protecting yourself, that encounter should not last more than 15 minutes. And that goes for a paramedic like myself who was transferring care, a nurse who's getting anything set up, or a respiratory therapist. The other thing is, after that, I became an acupuncturist, so I studied integrative medicine and classical Chinese medicine, so I know a little bit of something about why and how they use masks, particularly in China and throughout Asia. People wear it when they're symptomatic, and it's first a signal to let people know that they're not feeling good and that they're sick, and to stay away from them and give them space. So that's how masks have typically been used prior to COVID-19, is to alert people. And again, it's kind of like they're getting from A to B. They're not wearing them all day long, but that's how they've been used historically. The concern I have as a mom and a member of the community with a mandate is because it carries the weight potentially of a criminal repercussion. And if you're gonna pass a mandate without any repercussions to it, then does that open the door for just people to then say, well, we have a mandate, and then we're opening a door potentially for some type of discrimination or bullying? These things happened all of last year. I have a friend who has 3 young children. She's a single mom. She has epilepsy. She has PTSD from police brutality, and she wasn't able to wear a mask. And last year's mandate that the government put in even had, if you have a medical condition, you don't have to wear one, and you're also protected. You don't have to explain to people what your medical condition is. Well, even with all of that, she was discriminated against. So she was limited in where she can go, for shopping to get food for her kids. And the problem is this is very divisive. And we can go back and forth because there's a lot of data. I mean, we have entire countries that don't have any mandates that are doing much better. We have states that don't have any mandates that are doing better. It's interesting in Vermont, we're one of the most highly vaccinated states. A lot of our schools aren't able, with children masked, with teachers masked, they're still not able to contain, there's COVID happening and kids have to not be in school for periods of time. And I think that one of the other things is because this mandate could potentially just be like blanketed and people interpret it in their own way. We have very vulnerable people in our community. So I have a son who's autistic. He also is an asthmatic. He cannot really wear anything over his face for an extended period of time. He really can't barely tolerate it. But on the face, you don't know who has what. And so to put something like this is just creating more barriers. If people want to wear a mask, by all means do that. There are certain situations where I do that, absolutely. And if I'm encountering someone who prefers that I wear a mask, I don't have any problem doing that. If, we have that respectful conversation one-to-one. If businesses want to require a mandate for their business, that's absolutely your right to do. And in doing that, as a business owner, yes, you are required to then enforce that. Like any requirement that a business has. If you don't want people coming in shirtless, then you're required as that business to say, hey, we need people with a shirt on. It's that simple of a discussion. Mandates are dangerous because now what we do is we put the onus, we put the responsibility of enforcing that on law enforcement, because that is what can be done and that's what's being done in other towns. And, for a community that really holds social justice as a priority, I find it really troubling that that's never mentioned in these types of discussions. Because this is a social justice issue. Because when you have mandates and laws, we understand that there's a history with law enforcement, that people of color and marginalized groups tend to be the ones that are the most targeted. So we need to understand this in a really bigger picture than just, it makes me feel better when other people have it. We can have those conversations one-to-one in our community settings, but we have to really think, we can't have government solve all of our problems or make us feel better because we don't like that some people aren't complying and other people are in the way that we think. I also recovered from COVID, and there's a lot of places that I won't be able to go to because now they're requiring vaccinations. This is a serious problem when we have this type of a situation where people are being forced with certain healthcare decisions and certain medical appliances on their face and on their body. We're going down a road that we're never going to be able to come back from. So that's just all I want
Thanks for letting me talk. My name is Leland Roberts. I live in Wolcott, and I have enjoyed coming to Morrisville to shop throughout this last year because of the fact that there were many places that did not require the mask. And I don't have a literal allergy to that, but to a mask, but I have a spiritual and a intellectual problem with it. But it doesn't just stop there. You know, before OSHA was named to be the vaccine enforcer, they used to be about the business of protecting the people in businesses who were required to wear masks, and acknowledging really that it is not a simple and inconsequential requirement to wear these, and OSHA has a whole set of requirements on the businesses that require the mask wearing, and now we are just about to, and whatever the board here decides, I certainly hope the vote is against one, but that we're about to make this requirement without any sense of the potential danger for it. There was N95, the 3M mask. I was going to put it on, doing some sanding at home. Said caution, can cause harm or death if used improperly. And I do appreciate the speaker's note that they are likely trying to limit their own liability around this, but any business that requires employees to wear masks, they have to go through a lot of steps before it comes to that, to try to mitigate the harm, basically. And then once it's understood that is essential gear, then there are rules about how they're worn. They have to be properly fitted, there has to be observation, and yet we believe that we can just say, okay, here, everybody wear a mask. It's a big experiment. We're turning epidemiology, it seems, upside down. It used to be, if you're sick, you stay home. The elderly, the infirmed, we protect them. And yet we don't mask the healthy. The healthy actually help us process viruses, and so there's a whole lot to talk about. But importantly, where the rubber hits the road is that, you know, I can't. I'm kind of afraid to tell you how many thousands of dollars I spent. I just bought a place in Wolcott, and I can review and everything. And I come to Morrisville for the shopping, and I am the kind of guy that, on a matter of principle, will go elsewhere. And so there is an economic component to this. I think that maybe needs some consideration. I appreciate the opportunity to have my words here. I'm not a resident, but I'm a lover of Morrisville. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna take just a couple more, and then we're gonna do a motion. Go ahead, sir.
So I'm Chuck Riffenberg. I am a Morrisville resident. I have a business right across the street in Morrisville. We could go all night about the science and the evidence. I think just to quickly touch on that, what's not getting said is the number of scientists and doctors, PhDs, people with more credentials than anybody in this room that have been censored off of the internet, not allowed to participate in the debate, other than you can only have one opinion on this issue or you are cast aside. You are demonetized. You are not allowed to have your opinion on this issue unless it is what they want you to say. So we'll leave all the science to the scientists, and I'll just leave it personal on my end. Like, I like this town. I lived in Waterbury before this, and I'd much rather be here. I just got married. I'd like to raise my kids here. You know, don't make me leave. I will leave. So I'd like to stay here and be prosperous and run a business with all you folks. Thank you.
Just a couple more. Yeah, go ahead. One more. Just short ones.
Just to reinforce that nothing you do here tonight can stop people from voluntarily wearing masks anywhere they'd like.
That's correct.
For their own comfort and protection of any type. They could wear a full-blown respirator if they'd like to.
They can walk around in astronaut suit.
I wish Judy had felt more comfortable. That's not what we're trying to prevent. We're fighting for choice, not anti anything. And so I appreciate her dilemma. And I know she can't see me, but I wish she felt more comfortable coming here. I'm not her immune system. No, nobody in this room is her immune system. She has her own immune system. She needs to work that.
All right.
Can I just?
Go ahead, man. I know you were trying before.
My name is Emily Rennie Bryan, and I mostly just want to say, like, throughout this entire thing, for me personally, the biggest issue has been making other people feel uncomfortable. Like, that is not something that I want to do. I want people to feel like they can be comfortable around me. I'm sad that that's what's happened today, in a way. But I've also spent the last few years kind of shying away from that because I don't want, I can bend to other people's, comfort level. But at some point, I also have to be true to what resonates with me, and to put that aside all the time in order to allow other people to feel safe. I don't feel safe. I feel like people see me unmasked and they see me as a threat, and I think that's why so many of us are here in numbers without masks on tonight, because unfortunately we are on the defense. We are being attacked. We are being pigeonholed. We're being told we're bad, that we're threats to society. We're not allowed to be in society anymore in many ways. We're being excluded. So I understand that it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable on both sides. And I'm sorry for people's discomfort, but that's something that's happening, and we need to have a little bit of a bigger picture and where we're going on this whole thing. And I wish this weren't the case. I wish this whole thing would go away and we could just be neighbors without fear. And
us too.
So I'm going to try myself. I will be respectful to anybody's wishes. I will still go into businesses that asks me to mask. I want to support my community, but I also want to feel like I'm allowed to be who I am in my community.
Thank you. So, how do you want to proceed? Do you want to propose a motion? Do you want to do a motion, Jess or Judy?
Sure, for whatever it's worth. Well, I guess I don't know if it's worth it, because I know that we have at least 3 who don't want to do a mask mandate.
Well, it's still good to go through the process.
Okay. So I propose that the town of Morristown adopts a rule requiring face covering indoors in public spaces with no penalty for those who don't abide. So that would be we got two possible mandates from the Vermont Leagues of Cities and Towns. So that would be the one that doesn't include a fine.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Judy seconded.
Second.
That's a second by you, Judy. All right, is there any further discussion on this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Want to do a roll
Aye.
call?
Yeah, roll call. Jess, your aye.
Aye.
Judy, your aye.
Correct.
Gary?
No.
Brian?
No.
I'm no as well. Motion failed, 3-2. But I respect your decision.
I would like to say too that I do care about my community. I'm not voting no, but we have rights, and I don't like this either. But.
No, I also want to say that, as I said earlier, that I will certainly respect any businesses that want to require a mask. That's absolutely fine to me. I'll wear it. If they don't, I probably won't, or maybe I will. I mean, if I go into the grocery store, it doesn't require a mask, I may wear one anyway. I typically do, and so I probably will continue doing that, but again, I don't begrudge anybody their wishes and their thoughts, and it's a good thing we all don't think the same way.
I just want to reiterate, say one more time, I just feel like this shouldn't be decided by our public officials, meaning us in this case. It's all about personal responsibility and personal choice. That's all I got to say. All right, we'll move on to the next item.
I'd also like to say that over 750,000 people have died of COVID since March 2020. I don't know anyone who's died of COVID.
We still love the Charmosky.
Millions have killed themselves.
By the way,
Doesn't kill themselves.
so this young lady, if you came to us and you told us you had a medical condition, I don't make people mad.
Oh, you don't know, because I don't, I've been
No, all my, we've been doing it from day one.
So if you want to take a minute, 5-minute recess and let folks filter out that aren't going to take the rest of the minute.
Yeah. We call recess for a couple minutes.
Just because of what the governor said before.
Yeah.
You have medical conditions.
So we have to.
Thank you.
Now we're at like.
Folks, if I have your attention, we're in a 5-minute recess. If you plan to leave before the next article, please, if you would, we've got a lot of business yet to attend to. Thank you.
We do. We have a long agenda.
I'm so happy I don't wait to eat groceries, so. Yeah, okay. And,
Within literally a minute, it's unsent.
I finally have hope.
Yes.
Like my husband and I have been financially devastated. I've been in Will County about 33 years, raised my kids here. I went to school here, and I worked in this town, and then to be in the home now, so I can't run out of it. And you know, I realized, I can't realize this world. That's what I should have done. I did that. Thank you. I have a place, even though I'm in Jeffersonville.
If you're conducting business, we're muted. We can't hear anything.
Thank you.
Unmuted now.
We can hear now.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll discuss the road extension of Gordon Lane.
So Gordon Lane is a road that's already been named. It comes off of Jersey Heights, and it accesses current 9-unit apartment building. The proposed 136-unit buildings. The road access comes in from by Mike Alexander's.
Right.
Entrance only. The state has approved the naming of the entire roadway, Gordon Lane, start to finish. So your approval tonight would allow for the entire length of that road to be Gordon Lane.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Brian, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Gary. Is there any further discussion on this?
I was curious about the safety of that road emptying out onto 100 just above Mike Alexander's.
That one doesn't empty out.
It's not emptying out there. It's going to be a one-way entrance anyway, requested by the fire department. The only exit is going to be where where Gordon Lane is currently.
Thank you.
You bet.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Judy?
Aye.
Jess?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is passed. I'll do roll call from now on. All right, number 4, appoint Donnie Blake as an alternate to the DRB.
Donnie has been already been appointed by the DRB as an alternate. This is just a formal recognition from the select board as you are the one that appoints all board members.
Okay.
So I make a motion, we appoint him.
All right, I have a motion by Brian. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Gary. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I do. I had a few people emailing me about the process that board vacancies become public and who actually is on the list and how those vacancies are publicized. And it doesn't seem like a transparent process to me. And in the name of transparency, I feel that we should make each vacancy public and allow for a period where people can apply.
I know we have in the past.
Especially right now with all the development going on, I feel like if this were a publicized vacancy, that we would have a lot of people interested in doing it.
Do you know about that, Gary?
I can't understand what you said, Jess, but if you're talking about advertising for the position, it's been advertised. And Donnie Blake, and there was one other applicant. And when he found out that Donnie Blake was applying for the position, he stepped back because he said that he told Todd that Donnie had much more experience and has been around the town a lot longer and thought he would make a better applicant than he. And I'm sorry, but I don't remember the person's name. That he's a local person here in Morrisville, but I don't remember the name. Todd Thomas would remember it, but it was advertised, and this is the second or third time that we've advertised for alternate positions.
Yeah.
And previously we got one applicant, and this time we were fortunate enough to get two, and like I say, Donnie, the other gentleman stepped aside and deferred to Donnie on this.
Yeah, I don't know what you're hearing, Jess, but in the past, We advertise these positions every time we have a vacancy. And
Where are they-
like
where are they
Gary says, we get
where are
one
they
person.
Where are they advertised?
Front Porch Forum.
Front Porch Forum, the website.
It's in News and Citizen, I
News and
believe.
Citizen before. I've seen it in News and Citizen before.
Yeah.
Every time we have a vacancy for any of those boards, you know,
I haven't
so
seen anything on Front Porch Forum.
Haven't either.
maybe
So,
not
yeah,
recently, but
I have to agree with Jess. I find the process to be not as transparent as I'd like it to see. I think Donnie is an excellent choice. He's, a lot of experience. He's very qualified, but I'd like us somehow to look at a different process so that we can get some new faces and new blood on our boards.
we're all for that too. But just gotta have the applicants.
I'll be more than glad to have you set in on the next interview process when we do one.
Right.
I don't know how much more transparent than the board can be, but.
Well, I think for people who've been in town government for a long time, it does seem very transparent because you all know the process. But I don't think the average person in Morrisville finds the process very transparent. And like Judy's saying, like, I haven't seen anything on Front Porch Forum. I haven't seen anything in the paper. I don't know what the timeline is, like when the vacancy becomes available, how long how long you give for applicants to apply, and then what the qualifications are, and then how how long it is until the person gets appointed.
Yeah, I'd have to check with Todd on the timelines but this has been probably a couple of months ago now, since we interviewed Donnie. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't have seen any applicant or any requests for applicants in the last at least couple months anyway. Because it was previous to that.
I know it's been in the
And
paper.
I-
I've read them before in the paper.
From my limited experience with Donnie, just sitting in with him on one Board of Civil Authority meeting, he seems really intelligent and on point. He certainly knew much better than I did what was going on that night and had all the paperwork in line, and has obviously been a successful business owner and contractor in the town. I just like I said, I can't support appointing someone when I'm not clear on the process.
Okay. Well, we can certainly iron it out, so it's written down. So it's a policy on how we appoint individuals and where we advertise it, and the whole outline, so you know exactly what it is. I mean, I've been doing it 13 years, and that's the way it always happens. It gets advertised in the paper. The people that sometimes it takes a while to even get one person to
Right.
be an applicant, and I've had people ask me and before I've had them say, oh, what's it take to be a DRB member or, BCA member? They want to know, and then I tell them, and they're like, oh, well, maybe I don't want to do that.
Right.
That's the kind of thing that happens usually, and how much time it takes and the meetings and everything. But I know that we do our due diligence to advertise these spots, and I think there's a lack of people looking, and not seeing them. They may hear that, oh, we're going to appoint Donnie Blake, but like Gary said, that was a couple of months ago. It was probably advertised, so you wouldn't even see it.
So I want to say that I'm all for looking into this, making sure we've got it documented, how we do it, and if there's any way to improve it, because I'm all for letting the public know what we're doing, how we're doing it. The thing is too, I agree, over the years, the number of people that don't apply, it's not our fault if they don't know about it, or I don't know how you go door to door to tell them. So I do want to make sure that we know how it's being done, making sure it is being done, right? And if there's any way to improve it. And in fact, I don't even know if we have to do this tonight, because it's an alternative, right?
It's an alternate.
What, I'm gonna point out that Todd Thomas is on the screen, and he's your planning director and also sits in advisory capacity on other boards, and he might have some shed some light on this.
Right, Todd, do you have any comments about it? You're muted.
Hi, sorry about that. Thanks. So this is
There
a
you go.
DRB alternate. This is a DRB alternate seat. The position was first talked about a couple months ago. In fact, Donnie Blake's been appointed by the village trustees for about 2 months now. The select board has had a busy agenda, and it's been till now until we could get him on the agenda. If you want to wait one more meeting, feel free, but I need him for my January meeting. And the reason I need an alternate is the 2 alternates I currently had until 2 months ago were both former Graham Mink tenants. So when Graham had a project in, you have the Paul Trudell is the architect, Graham's in-house architect for all his development, and Paul's the second longest DRB member. So Paul recuses himself from all DRB hearings, and both alternates I have to fill Paul's seat are also compromised because they're Graham's tenants. So this is a matter of important business. I need someone to fill the seat when Graham has applications in because Paul draws Graham's plans, if that makes sense.
Well, we have a motion on the floor, so are we gonna, I'm about ready to say, all in favor, say aye.
Todd, would you just refresh my memory on how these positions are advertised for and for how long?
Yeah, I think the last time we advertised on this, we got a few interested candidates. Christy Snip was the last alternate appointed. It was on Front Porch Forum. It was on the website. It was on the forum a couple times, I believe. And we got 4 people, only one of which, Christy Snip, was the only person who showed up to the DRB interview. So the way the process works, the call is put out that we're looking for an alternate for in this case. People are invited to come to the DRB. They meet with the DRB interviews the candidates. And at the end of the meeting, the DRB talks among itself and passes a recommendation for appointment along to the select board and the village trustees. DRB and planning is jointly appointed. So in this case, the DRB most recently met with Donnie. They thought Donnie was wonderfully qualified, and they asked the select board and trustees to make the formal appointments. The trustees did that about 2 months ago. The select board just getting around to it.
Thanks, Todd. So there's a motion on the floor to appoint Donnie Blake as an alternate to the DRB. Is there any further discussion on it?
I'm sorry, my other question, I don't mean this in any offensive way, but I mean, since Donnie Blake is a contractor, is that a conflict of interest for him to be on the DRB? I mean, is he sitting in on potential projects that he would get hired to work at or bid?
He would recuse himself.
Yeah, I would hope you would think that we're better than that, Jess.
I do. I just
everybody on the board has had to recuse himself from time to time, and in a small town like this, it's pretty hard to get enough volunteers to do any of these positions.
Right.
Without being compromised at some time or other. And that's why we need at least 2 alternates, is because of the conflict of interest of Paul Trudell being an architect. I used to have to recuse myself when I worked for Monash on several different occasions. And we even, Karen Sturdivant was another alternate. She was a tenant of Graham Mink's, so she would recuse herself when it came time to act on a Graham Mink project. And there's been several others over the years. I've been on there for over 40 years, and I have yet to see anybody not abide by the regulations and their own personal feelings that they can form a unbiased opinion. So no, I think you're reaching out there for a problem that doesn't exist.
Okay. I'm just asking questions, and I'm also responding to a lot of people who email me with concerns around this kind of thing. So thanks for clarifying it.
Yeah, no, I understand your concern, and and that's why I asked Todd to refresh my memory on how this takes place. And it's certainly so, I mean, it's on the town website, it's on Front Porch Forum, and it's advertised in the News and Citizen, so. I'm not sure what else we can do.
Yeah, I get contacted just like that too, Jess, all the time with people, you know, asking questions like that. Oh, isn't that a conflict of interest? And I say, well, like a good example is Paul Trudell. He's recused himself several times because he might be designing a building that's going to be decided on a DRB. That happens all the time, just like what Gary said. But the best you can do is just set them straight. Make them realize that our board is very good at managing it. Like Gary said, it's like over 40 years. And it's not a bad thing to ask questions, but it's good to set people straight because I do the same thing. I just did that last week with another one, asked me about Paul.
Hey, Jess, and over, I've been staffing the DRB for well north of a decade at this point, and I don't believe Donnie Blake's ever appeared in front of the DRB, so I don't have any concerns there as a staff person.
Okay.
All right, so I have the motion on the floor in second, appoint Donnie Blake as an alternate to the DRB. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye. By roll call, Jess?
Nay.
Judy? Judy, are you there? Can you hear me, Judy? These virtual meetings are so difficult. Gary?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
And I'm aye as well. Judy, you there? Motion is, there you are, Judy. You say aye, your thumbs up, okay, aye. Motion is passed, 4-1. All right, next, this is a painful meeting, I'm telling you. Number 5, discuss supporting an article for half-cent appropriation for the MCC, future land purposes.
Ron and Brent, you're on.
We've been before the board
You have.
a few times in the past,
Yes.
and I think maybe we're looking at more into the future. And what we've neglected to consider in the past times when we came before the board, that we're getting the article on there, we still have to justify it before the town.
Right.
And we're just looking at the article that's on there without having to go through 5%
Right.
support of the voters, which can be done.
Right.
Done
We can do it, the board can do it.
questions before.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, last year you wanted to do it, but you didn't have enough time to get the votes and stuff, and we couldn't, the deadline ran out, so we couldn't do it.
So we're hopefully on time this time.
Right.
And we do have projects in mind, and that's part of my job is looking at properties that should be preserved or
Right.
some way or another.
Yes. Okay, how's the board want to deal with this?
If I can just advise you, if the board votes in favor of this, that the wording for the article will have to be crafted specifically, because being that it's an article voted on by the voters, only whatever the verbiage describes as the money is to be used for, that's all it can be used for. So if you use the word for projects, then it can be used just for projects, not for land purchases. So the draft, if the board votes in support of the half-cent, the article has to be specific as to what the money is going to be used for, so the voters are approving that.
Well, it can say future land purposes, but it can't. It can't say just this project or that project, and it's going to be. You guys realize that?
Well, and one example may be the next article, which won't be covered tonight, is money for possible parking lot at the Bryan on the road.
Right.
This is not going, that's not going to be discussed, but that's another
Right.
possibility of use of money.
Yes.
For conservation purposes and recreational purposes.
Okay, how do we want to proceed? Do we want to make a motion? Do you want to?
Is this for 1 year? How many years are they looking to do that for? Would that be
For
part of
1
the
year?
motion?
Yes,
We understand this is a yearly thing, and that if, there's a lot of interest in this town at this present time, and in the country actually, in the conservation of the natural resources we have left. And our job is to see what Morristown needs to look at and try to save and so forth. So what we're really looking at is doing this on an annual basis. We'd probably do that for 3 years, trying to get $100,000 saved so that when something comes up, we can act. There was a possibility of doing something and may still be in the works, but we had no funds and no emphasis behind it. So what we're trying to do is build the interest, which I can see growing in Morristown all the time. But you can't be in the business and not have any funds to be able to act instantaneously. If you have a piece of property you want to buy, you can't wait for a whole year to go by for 6 months.
Right.
So what we're trying to do is be able to be proactive, have a little reserve there. $100,000 is nothing compared to where land is going now. But it'll give us something that we could act to hold until the town decides whether they want to do it or not.
Well, my thoughts is, you already have a fund, right, that's sitting there, that's been there for a long time, right?
We have a fund called the Morristown Conservation
Right.
Fund.
So do you know how much it is?
Tina does.
Currently, the Conservation Commission has a total of $31,400 with their CD and their money market fund. There is also another fund that's not necessarily conservation, but it was from the forest land. You folks voted all the logging and stuff on the, and we put all that money into another account called forest land, which has another 21,000 that you could opt to use to help out conservation if you wanted to.
Yes.
So you have about $52,000.
So my thoughts are, because you talked about, even if this passed at town meeting, I don't think anybody's gonna give you the permission to all of a sudden take 100,000, go do whatever you wanna do with it. My opinion, I wouldn't wanna decide to spend 100,000 not going back to the people. So my opinion is if we had some money to maybe start the process to hold it, is that what you're looking for? And then go to the voters and say, listen, we got a chance to do this, because the voters might not want to. So I would want to go with that kind of money. I think I'd want to go in front of the voters. I'm just saying, if I'm still here, that's the way I would go. I'm not against doing it, but I don't think it's going to go in there knowing that you can sit at the commission meeting and say, we're headed to buy this. Okay.
I think I understand what you're saying.
Okay, I think that's the way it works.
I agree with you. I don't think the Conservation Commission wants the authority to go out and spend $100,000.
No.
You guys know better than I do, but everything's usually what the town wants. And if it's a big issue, the town decides, and that's the way it should be.
Yes. Yeah.
But I don't have a problem supporting you guys having an article. I'm all in favor for that.
Yeah. Well, now we got $52,000. You would still like to do the try for it. And what's the half a cent?
About 30 something.
No, it's between $35,000 and $40,000 depending on what the grand list is. But I think last time it was 36,000, I think.
Yep. So again, I have no problem going and see what the people say, but that's.
Okay, so you want a motion to this?
Well, this is.
Sorry, can I?
Jess, sorry.
So the question is whether this will be an article at town meeting. Is that?
Yes.
And do we have the wording?
No, the article's not written. This is simply mostly a polling of the board.
Yeah.
Not necessarily needing an article, similar to what you did for Matt Lindemer, indicating whether or not he needed to go and get signatures for an article for town meeting. It's a very similar circumstance. They're just looking to poll the board for the support for the article. If the board chooses to do that, I just simply am looking for, the verbal from you folks. If you're looking to support that, then we'll I'll work with Sarah and we'll draft up the article for town meeting.
You don't need a motion.
I don't feel that way, only because you're not taking an action to spend any money. You're simply.
I would think that if there's any action to be taken, we would wait until after the
Budget hearings.
After the, is drawn up. So we see the actual verbiage.
See the article itself.
And approve the article
Yeah.
to go into the town report. Or,
Well,
I don't know what the proper.
I'm just thinking, I'm fine with you, having the article.
Yeah, we'll submit an article.
But like what you said, yeah, if you,
I think we ought to see.
we don't need a motion right now.
No,
We'll need a motion when we decide what the article
Right,
is
we
and
need
then
to
approve
see
it.
the article before we can make a motion.
We just need, what do you think, Jess and Judy?
I'm in support of seeing an article, and I'm probably also in support of the article as well.
Okay, how about you, Judy? Okay, okay, thank you. All right, so, does that sound
Put your
good?
mask on, we can hear you then.
So you'll work with Sarah?
I will.
Okay.
I'll have an article for you when we get to the appropriate point in our process to approve the articles for the town report.
Yeah.
That article will be there. I just simply was looking for the board's kind of the go-ahead to do that, or if the MCC felt strongly enough about it, would they go out and seek to get enough signatures in order to bypass the board and do it that way?
I think they deserve to just get it on as an article. What you're saying, it rings true with me. I think of Jess when think about the buildings that are empty around here, like the service station up at the corners there. The town, we can't just do something with that, Any big thing that would happen to that space has to be approved by the voters, and we don't have a fund like to start off and save and maybe, put some money down on something, start a project, whether it's turning into a chamber of commerce or something like that, we have to go to the voters, and it's kind of frustrating for me. I know Jess was trying to, she's addressing that too, as far as the empty buildings, in town, and it's the same kind of thing what you guys are talking about, trying to conserve land, and this is what I'm saying, trying to conserve or refurbish some of the properties around town, whether it's the Nephew building or the one up there, any of them that could use help. And I feel like sometimes our hands are tied. We can't do anything about it, and that's one way it can happen is through an article like that. It can establish a fund. I didn't know there was that much money. I thought there was 30, but I forgot about that logging money. And that gives you something to start, but that's still, like you said, Brian, it's dropping a bucket for what you might need. And if you can save up a few years, if the taxpayers will go for it, I think it's a great thing. So that's what I say about it. Thank you for what you guys doing there.
Is Sarah still on there? Because I know that last year they did waive the signature things, and maybe they have again this year.
Sarah, are you there?
I am here. No, we're not in a state of emergency anymore. We can't be collecting electronic signatures.
Okay.
So I'm in the.
If that's what the question.
I'm in the state of emergency myself, so I don't have to get mine right.
Yeah, no. That you still need, anybody running for office, you still need to get the 30 signatures on a petition also.
Speaking of that, will you please remind me next time I see you?
Are you talking to me, Gary?
I am.
Get mine ready too.
Okay. All right, so are you guys happy with that? Does that sound good? We'll get it figured out.
Also, does that have any does this have any bearing on the question that you all had brought up around the town plan of there was something about saying that Morristown has a separate conservation fund, and that would allow the matching of grant funds. Do you all know what I'm talking about?
No.
No, I'm actually asking Ron, and I can't see who else is there from the MCC.
Ron and Brent, Jess.
Okay, so during the town plan meeting a few weeks ago, you had also brought up a request to have a separate Morristown Conservation Fund set up. Would this, and can you confirm that you know that what I'm talking about?
There is a Morristown Conservation Fund that the select board appointed. If you look on the bylaws for the Conservation Commission, it explains that fund outright. And I don't think you can tell better, but I don't think we're using that as it was depicted in 92, I think it was. Is that right?
Well, I don't know what the intent was. I just know that a certain sum was given to establish the Conservation Commission fund that could only be used for land conservation or land conservation activities, and that's all it's being used for. And that is the $31,000 amount that I quoted you earlier. So we have had a conservation fund for a long time.
I think Jess's question is in line, Bob, with the 10-year town plan language. And I remember reading something about it. I'm just not familiar enough to quote here.
Right, I'm not
But
either.
it may be something that Todd has signed off for the night, but he may be able to answer that question, that if you create this, or will that fund that the half cent would go into, would that be what the 10-year town plan is discussing? Right. Is that fair, Jeff?
Yeah, because I'm thinking also of, say the voters do choose to accept the half cent on the dollar for this fund, and say it goes on for a few years. And I think, Eric, you said that would amount to about $100,000 over 3 years.
Correct.
And I was just thinking, well, that's something, but I mean, that's a substantial amount of money, but wasn't there, I believe there was also a piece about the MCC wanting to write grants and needing a specific type of fund named and a specific I don't remember. It was like a specific separate type of fund named that we were talking about in the town plan, so that when they were writing grants, they could get more grants. I don't know if it was just that it has to say in our town plan that we support, or that we do have a fund. I'm not sure why it's different than what we have already, but I just want to make sure that, I don't know if this is related.
I'll ask Todd to clarify that, Jeff, and send you an email response. Is that okay?
Right, yeah, because I'm always thinking, well, it's great to ask voters for the money, but if we can also get a matching dollar amount, that would be even better.
Jeff, was that, I remember what you're talking about, and it seems to me like Bob referenced the Morrisville Development Fund.
Yes, that's what I wonder if she was talking about.
To maybe supplement that. Does that
It was
ring a bell?
something that, well, it was something that a new member of the MCC brought up. Is her name Jennifer, Ron?
There is a Jennifer, yeah.
Yeah, I believe I believe it was a request that she brought up. In terms of making sure that the way the fund was set up, we would be, and the way that it was, I don't know how to say it. The way that it was supported in our town plan meant that we would be able to, when she wrote grants, they would have the ability to match funds. I don't know. I'm speaking in circles, and I don't have.
We'll have to look into it.
Okay.
I'll talk to Todd tomorrow.
We'll look into it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jess.
We'll clarify.
All right, next. Approve and sign errors and omissions.
We got to discuss ballot options for town meeting number 7, Bob.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yep. All right. Is that you, Sarah?
It is me. So the Secretary of State's office sent an email last week that I have to put in an order for absentee ballots by December 15th for town meeting. So that's why I'm bringing it up. And the law changed on July 1st that you all know because of the special meeting, and the select board can now vote if they want to mail all active voters their ballots or not for local elections. I don't have enough supplies to mail everybody ballots with my current stock. And so therefore, if the board has any indication or any feeling that they might want to mail everybody their ballots, I should order enough. If they don't, I'm thinking that I should not, to save the money because we have the additional expense of the special meeting. I have asked Stowe and Elmore because the law also states that all 3 select boards individually would have to approve if they were going to allow the school to mail everybody their ballots. And what Elmore has told me is that they don't have an Australian ballot for annual meetings, so therefore for the town, it's a moot point. And they haven't discussed it. And Stowe, Lisa from Stowe has told me that she believes that they will not be mailing all of their voters ballots. So I just wanted to bring it up and kind of get a feeling before I spend the money getting envelopes or not.
What do you think, Brian?
I don't think we need to.
How about you, Gary?
I think we should mail absentee ballots that are requested, and that's it.
Yeah.
How about you, Jess? Jess, can you hear me?
Sorry. I mean, I guess it's hard to see into the future. Like, I'm hoping that everyone feels comfortable going to the polls, but I think, yeah, I mean, I think since it's town meeting and everyone expects to vote around town meeting, that if we just mail ballots to those that request, I think we're in good shape. I think the reason we chose to do it differently for this election coming up tomorrow is because it was such a strange time. So I think we're okay not ordering more.
Okay. Judy's not on there anymore, is she?
Judy just typed no
Yeah.
ballot sent unless asked for.
Okay. And that's how I feel too. I think we do what Gary said, if anyone requests a ballot, we send it to them, but not to anybody else.
I'm going to suggest you make a motion to reflect that, since that's what we did for the special election.
I'll make a motion that we send out only ballots that are requested by registered voters of town of Morristown.
Second.
I have a motion by Gary and a second by Brian. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Jess?
Aye.
Judy? That's a
Yeah,
thumbs up, aye. Gary?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
The vote is unanimous.
Thanks.
But the motion said Morrisville, I believe it should be Morristown.
Morristown, yeah.
Morristown's what I said.
I said Morrisville.
No,
I'm sorry.
I'm pretty sure I said Morristown.
Yeah. But it is Morristown.
If I didn't, I meant to wrong. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Sarah. Are you done with us, Sarah?
I am.
Okay. All right, next, approve and sign errors and omissions.
So I talked to Terry today because errors and omissions are not my strong suit. What she described is she has 2 different requirements for signatures here, 2 different certificates. The first one is for late homestead filers. So if someone asked for an extension on their income tax in the April timeframe, so they didn't do their taxes until later in the summer and opted to wait until they did file in order to file for their homestead, that's reflected here. Thank you. Those are reflected here. The tax rate goes down, but the assessed value of the property stays the same. is what she explained to me.
Okay.
And that's the first one. That's the, those are the filers for homestead.
Yeah.
And you see them there. It's page 57. I think that's it. And then the second errors and omissions, you can see those are for current use changes. And each line has an explanation as to which, how much the difference in the dollar value was.
Right.
So this is the work that Terry does for us. She cleans up our books, our grand list books, and assesses the values and makes sure apples are apples. And she does a fantastic job. She's highly sought after, I can tell you, just throwing a couple of words her way right now. It's amazing work she does, and she helps us out a great deal doing so.
Okay. Do I hear a motion regarding this?
Are we doing separate?
Please, two separate motions.
So I'll make a motion that we do the first one.
Which is the late filers.
Late
Filers
filers.
and omissions.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Gary. Any further discussion?
Yeah, there's nothing on mine.
There's an attachment sheet. So
Oh, okay.
you see it says,
Yes.
please see attached list?
Yeah.
These two here?
Correct.
Yeah,
Right there.
okay.
Is the attachment, is that page 50 and 57?
I believe
Yeah.
so.
Yes, it is.
Yep.
Any further discussion?
And 54, actually.
All in favor, say aye. Jess?
Well, Jess just said she wants to leave the meeting, she's not very well.
Okay. Judy?
Yes.
Aye. Gary?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
And I'm aye. 4-0, motion is passed. Next one?
I'll make a motion that we do the errors and omission on current use changes.
Okay, I have a motion by Brian. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Gary. Any further discussion on this? All in favor, say aye. Judy?
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up, Judy.
Yep.
Gary?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
And I'm aye as well. Motion is passed.
6.
4-0. All right, next item. Trying to sign and do all this at the same time. Hire a new EMS staff member. Bill, can you help me with that?
Sure. Myself, Corey, Eric, and Paula at Human Resources met with 4 candidates on November 29th. Based on those interviews of 4 very qualified candidates that would, any one of them would be able to step in and perform that in the work. We would like to offer the recently approved full-time position in Colby, Mass. At a starting rate of $19.12 an hour with a start date of January 3rd.
Okay.
And Colby is here tonight.
All right.
Good. Apparently, we don't want to see if you can't hear us.
Thank you.
All right, do we hear a motion regarding this?
I move to offer the position of full-time EMS AEMT to Colby Massick at grade 4, step 3 at $19.12 per hour.
I have a motion by Gary. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Brian. Is there any further discussion on this? All in favor, say aye. Judy? Thumbs up. Brian, Gary?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
I'm aye as well. 4-0. The motion is passed. Welcome aboard.
He said, welcome aboard.
It's a good meeting, you know.
Bob, just wanted to, we are going to be, we're going to be posting, will be part-time position is open. So we'll be back at some point to discuss this for part-time.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. All right, next, approve revised fiscal year 22-23 compensation pay plan. It's right here.
So, as a result, with Colby coming on board, not necessarily just because of Colby coming on board, we had discussed this prior. We just had not taken the time to ferret it out. But certainly there is a difference in the education levels between a certified paramedic and a certified AEMT. And in an attempt to recognize that, where on the former pay scale, they were all lumped into one scale, I'm suggesting that the board approve this to show the separation of the two with a pay difference for the paramedic being higher than the AEMT. That's one of the corrections that was being made. The other one, the other two actually, are relative to your finance department. As I've mentioned numerous occasions, we are very, very steadfastly working toward the formalized human resources department and processes and policies related to that. As a result of that, the responsibilities of both Paula and Tina are greatly increased, along with the education needs. Paula comes to us having worked prior at a very large nonprofit, and she was the human resources director. So she has a tremendous amount of knowledge in that field. It is a continuing education field, so they will have to continue to be trained and go to classes on that. But in recognizing the fact that they are both working finance and HR at the same time, I felt that it was appropriate for us to change their locations on the pay scale. Certainly their level of responsibility will and has increased greatly. So you can see the assistant finance HR director. They asked me to just talk about this as positions, folks. This team is pretty humble. They wanted me to discuss this as positions, but I think it's appropriate that you know, even after we've had our first article tonight where we had a no findings report from our auditor yet again, I think it's important that we do recognize that these are the two folks who we're talking about impacting here and the work that they do. So Paula's position moves up in line with the planning director or the zoning administrator's position as far as pay scale goes. And the finance director, HR director moves up in line with the same scale as the ENS chief.
Mm-hmm. That's good to me.
Those are my recommendations.
Any questions? Sound good?
Sounds good to me.
Do we need a motion? We do.
The motion would be to approve this with Bob's signature. We only need one signature on this. Thank you.
I move that we approve the revised proposed compensation pay plan for fiscal year 2022/2023 as presented and authorize Bob to sign.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Brian. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Judy? Thumbs up. Gary?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
I'm aye as well. 4-0. Motion pass. By John Hancock. Thank you, ladies.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything you do. I know you guys are very humble, both of you. But we know you make things happen. You're like the wizard behind the curtain. Is that true?
Yeah, but it's called the wizard.
It is.
An assistant wizard.
It is. All right. Next, approve the warrant.
I make a motion to approve them.
I have a motion by Brian. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Gary. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Judy? Thumbs up. Gary? Aye. Aye. Brian?
Aye.
I'm aye as well. 4-0, motion is passed. Warrants are approved. TA report. Eric?
Yes, many thanks on behalf of the employees of the town of Morristown to the select board and to the taxpayers for the Hannaford's gift cards that were distributed at the holiday, before the Thanksgiving holiday. They were certainly very much appreciated, and lots of positive comments about that, so thank you.
Okay.
The EMS interviews, I can only mirror what Bill has already said. 4 very good candidates from in-house. It was wonderful to have that many in-house and so qualified. It did make it a little difficult to bring the choice down, but I think personally, I think the right choice was made, and there was much debate back and forth. So I welcome Colby on board as well. We spent a long time prepping and getting ready for, and then attending the Act 250 hearing last Thursday night. It was an exercise in education for me, having never been through the process before. It was about a 4-hour meeting with a 15-minute break at one point in the middle, and the feeling from the town team, our attorney Brooke and engineer Tyler, is that it went very well, and they're still working very hard putting stuff together. We're going to have a meeting later is it this week or first of next week?
I think maybe Friday morning.
That's it, it's Friday this week, yeah. So we'll continue to gather information and answer the commission's questions that remained unanswered after the hearing. So everything looks to be good. Actually, it was some very pleasant surprises during the hearing too. So more on that as it unfolds. I attended the GPAC meeting. It's the Governor's Emergency Preparedness Advisory Council meeting. I represent the League of Cities and Towns at that meeting. I'm in an education process on that one as well, so I do a whole lot of listening. But it's briefings at a higher level. There are a lot of state folks there, senior leaders within the National Guard and other components of the state government that have been chosen to be on this. And they spoke. We had a briefing from out of Washington D.C. on the supply chain issues and how that relates to our ability to respond at the end of a crisis or an environmental event. What might we do? So there's a lot of thought process going on right now about what items would be necessary items after a flood event which hits us, or ice storms or long power outages. So a lot of folks put a lot of thought into what items of necessity would be, but really I think the message that comes out of that I can pass on to our folks is, if there was ever a time to build a emergency box or emergency backpack or a go bag at home, now is the time to do that. It's the supply chain has had interruptions starting across the globe and in this country. So I'm not trying to get a run on toilet paper again. However, it's not a bad idea to buy another roll of paper towels when you're at the store, or some more canned soup, something like that. Just have supplies on hand. No different than what we've ever done as Vermonters, but just pay particular attention, because there are supply chain issues that are going to impact us going forward, to include the price of fuels. We had 2 retirement gatherings this last couple of weeks. One for Richard Keith, one for Doug Wallace. Both of them well attended in their own right, the way they wanted it done. Doug was a more reserved. Richard's pretty reserved too, but he didn't get much of a choice. But it was a beautiful ceremony for him, well attended. Doug wanted it low key with the highway garage folks. His wishes were met. It was a great event there as well. And both of them very, very grateful for the send-offs that they received. Other than that, I just continue to work on the projects that are a bit in front of us: hazard mitigation and local emergency management plans, your animal control officer position, just trying to spend a little bit of time on everything as we go forward to keep the motion going in the right direction. That's all I have.
Okay. Any questions for Eric? Okay. Judy? Good, thumbs up. No questions. Okay, Eric, thank you. Next, select board concerns. Judy, can you talk or can you type? You don't have any?
The motion.
You have no speaker, no voice. Okay. Gary, save it for next time, Judy.
Let her go twice next time.
Yeah, I guess we get the thumbs up, so we're good to go. Yeah, I just want to, it tests your patience to go through an Act 250 hearing. I've been through a few, and I could just imagine what Eric was going through, just trying to listen to some of the comments and stuff. It is just ridiculous. And I just want to give kudos to Eric with his silver tongue and the Act 250 team for kind of just pulling all this stuff together. They talked with they talked with one of the opponents, the biggest opponent, previous to the hearing. And that opponent, in turn, talked to another one at that 15-minute break that we had. And it turned things around. It was a sight to behold to see the one commissioner that had all the questions. And when it comes to water supply and water management issue, that had all been settled before the meeting. And she was dumbfounded. She was on Zoom, but I know she had a list of questions that long that she was gonna ask. And she could not say a word because everything had been addressed. And the opponent was Mr. Avery. He did an excellent job. He stood behind us 100%. It came to the knotweed issue that the same commissioner was pushing hard. And Mr. Avery, he said to the commission members, if you want to make the town eradicate the knotweed on this project, you'll probably bankrupt the town. Because he said, I've got it in my field down there. He said, I've done everything I can do for the last 40 years to keep that at bay, and he said it still keeps encroaching. Every year it gets worse and worse and worse. And he's been fighting it with herbicides, which he doesn't like to do because he's a very organic type person. And but anyway, so I think they really took that to heart. The commissioners that were here at the table, really, you could see in their eyes that because that's all you could see because everybody was wearing masks, but you could tell. And they all did such an excellent job. When I came in, Don Avery asked me, he said, Gary, he said, are you here to testify? And I said, absolutely not, no. I'm just here as a spectator. And I don't know how it was good, bad, or indifferent, but I think it was a Judy's thumbs up.
Yeah.
I wasn't testifying. But no, it was great. I think we're gonna get a favorable, we're gonna have conditions, but that's what the team is working on, and our meeting is about on Friday morning, is to draw up conclusions and findings of fact, conclusions of law and findings of fact, to present to the board. It's better for proactive, and we present them to them and let them modify them as they see fit, as opposed to letting them take the wheel and deciding what we're gonna have for conditions. So, yeah, it worked really well. I know it's been a long time coming, and like I say, for those of you that weren't there, which is all of you, I guess, other than myself and Eric, it really went really well. In my experience with Act 250 hearings. I think it could have been a lot worse because we haven't seen the conditions yet, but I think we'll get a permit and a decent one to work with, and Kevin and everybody is on board with it. And yeah, I think we're off to a good start, and we should, hopefully, we can use all our own material next year. We'll have to work hard in order to be able to get our sand screen in time, but I think with a little pushing and like a little extra work, I think we can make it happen, so we don't have to purchase anything, hopefully, out of town this year.
That's great.
Yeah, it was good, and I was just gonna mention the chief's retirement party, which was very well attended, and also Doug's, and I presented him with that letter that we all signed. It was framed, thanks to probably Sarah. Eric said he got framed, but.
I did get that one. I did get that framed. She gets everything else, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Sarah is my, she's my organizer.
No, that was good.
Yeah.
Doug really appreciated it. Couple of employees thought very highly of him, and one got a little emotional as the speech went on that he gave, and it was great. Everybody was very appreciative, and so was Doug. That's pretty much it for me, I guess.
Thanks, Gary. Brian.
Okay, I want to start by thanking everybody that gave me the flowers and the card. Very much appreciated. Sorry I missed both the parties. I was at work. One thing I noticed, it's getting darker earlier at night. I mentioned lights over by Hannaford's at the end of both road. Has anybody ever checked into whether something, usually you come into an intersection, you got a big bright light kind of shining into, so you can see, and it's kind of dark through there on both ends.
I mean, Stafford Avenue and Hannaford and Brooklyn Street, is that what you're talking about?
The bypass and the Hannaford side, yeah, the Brooklyn, yeah.
I can check with AOT on it. It's currently, they own those roads, so the lighting would have to, I think, would come through them.
Okay.
But I can check. I can call the AOT.
Just see if it's normal. If you go up through there, you'll see a lot of the big intersections have lights that kind of light it up so you can see better. It's just a little dark there. Other than that, it's great.
Okay, and I'm all set tonight. All right, other business. Discuss evaluation of a public officer, possible executive session.
I make a motion to enter executive session to discuss appointment or employment or evaluation of a public officer or employee pursuant to 1 VSA section 313(4) of the Vermont statute. Motion to include Eric Dodge, County Administrator.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Judy? Judy, gonna call in. Yep, aye.
Aye.
Judy, would you call my cell phone, please?
Brian?
Aye.
Good. So we are almost in executive session. Here we are.